So I'm gonna, it's her choice. So I'm gonna turn this over to here. And Brenda, you can come right up here to the front. I'm gonna move away, okay? And you can see Dan and Mr. Blankenberg in the background there. He's not gonna put bunny ears over her back of her head or anything, okay? So I'm a distance away and you can still hear me. I'm gonna take my mask off so I can breathe and while I'm asking some of these questions. So, Mrs. Lehman, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well. We had a good day today. You know,
Yeah.
Today's all right. I got a chance to bring Luna the puppy to work today,
Yep.
which was fun.
Yes.
And if you're a high school student and you actually watch the announcements, you'll stay tuned for Friday's announcements because I think Luna makes. Well, I know Luna makes an appearance.
Oh, nice.
So it's good.
Nice.
So I've got 7 or 8 questions I'd like to ask you that hopefully by you answering will help the community to know more about your role. And maybe we'll spur some questions from them, right?
Sure.
So if you're out there in the universe and you're watching this, you can use the chat feature while Brenda is answering these questions. I see we have 11 people watching right now, so I appreciate that. If you have questions, feel free to ask them via the chat, and we'll go from there. Okay. So first question: how long have you been at Marcus Whitman?
I've been at Marcus Whitman for about 14 years. I started in 2006.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It's a long time.
It was that role originally director of technology, or what was that when you started?
So I came as a technology coordinator through Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES.
Okay.
Full time for 5 years, and then in 2011, with the budget crises around that time, we went to 0.5 here and 0.5 at another school district for a few years. And then just last year, I started back here full time as a Marcus Whitman school district employee. So not with
good.
anymore. Yeah.
So what did you choose Marcus Whitman, or did Marcus Whitman choose you? How did that work?
I say I was drafted.
Oh, yeah.
I got a call from my boss one day and said, "Hey, we need you to report to Whitman tomorrow. They need some help over there." So
yeah.
But it was good for me. My kids, we live in the district. My my girls both graduated from here. Very good education. And actually, when we were buying a house, we chose Whitman as a school district. We were looking around at different places in the area. So
did
good
you
fit.
did you buy the house for the internet access?
No. No, we still only have Frontier.
So if anybody who has anything to do with Frontier is watching this, we'd appreciate some more internet. Thank you. We're even willing to pay for it. We're willing to pay for it. We just like some more. So, so one question that I've been asking everybody is, what's your work day? I always tell people I'm 24/7, but I could really boil it down to what it is. So what's your typical work day? Like when do you get up and start thinking about technology to when do you turn it off and go to bed for the night?
Sure. So I'm usually up around 6 and checking in quickly on the phone to see what's going on, or if we have any alerts from the night, or I take alerts all night, on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm usually here 7:30 and usually leave 4:30. This school year, I've been here till 7 o'clock most nights. Only recently in the last week or two have I been leaving around 5.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much to do and we're short staffed right now. But IT and infrastructure is a 24/7 gig.
Yeah.
I've been here on Christmas Eve. I've been here on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting. I think you and I had talked about this offline, but I was a director of technology back in the day, and during the year 2000, and I had to leave a New Year's Eve party to go stay in the server closet to make sure that the server didn't crash at midnight, and it didn't.
Yep.
Most people's didn't.
We were all on standby for
Yeah, but I remember those days.
Yep.
Yeah. So you must have a team, and so how many people are on that team that help you every day?
There are 4.2 FTE on my team. Although right now we're short one. We had our network admin left in August, and we haven't had a chance to replace him yet. So we have a full-time AV technician, a full-time computer tech, senior computer tech, and then 2 days a week we have a guy comes in from BOCES for some support on some specialty things.
Yeah, so you talk about specialty things and all of that. I don't think that any community understands how many devices a school district actually services or has in its inventory.
Right.
So do you even have a ballpark of, well, you should, we
I
should
do.
take inventory. So what's,
I do. It's Ben's time.
all right, yeah. So,
yes.
so how many devices do we have and kind of what are they?
Sure. We support 1,500 Chromebooks. As you know, your students have them, your teachers have them, support staff has them. About 600 Windows laptops, computers, and some Macs. Over 100 printers, tablets, smartphones, sound systems, 140 or so smart boards and projectors and screen setups, signage systems. Yeah, lots of thousands of pieces of equipment, thousands and thousands.
Yeah, it's so crazy because with the number of server closets we have to have and routers and hubs and switches.
Yeah,
and,
I don't even count that.
And everything else. Yeah, I'd be always interested to know how many miles of actual network cable we have and fiber optic cable we have, like in the school district. It's miles and miles and miles. It's got to be. You know. What's your role specifically, and Dan's too? Every role's got its challenges. What would be if I asked you, okay, what's the biggest challenge in your role? What would you think? How would you answer that?
The biggest challenge, I think, is helping people understand we're an enterprise network, so we're a little different than your home. We can't just order a computer on Best Buy, have it delivered, and set it up in an hour. Everything that we do, while we're balancing cybersecurity and internet content filtering for kids and student safety and everything, while making everything work and being the best and easiest experience for teaching and learning in the end. So all those interconnected pieces, there's so much planning, testing, and programming that goes into the Chromebook landing in front of the student to take home and use that I'm not sure a lot of people understand how much work there is to make that all happen and make it seamless for a single login with Clever and things like that. So, and that's our challenge with anything new, is how is this going to fit into our ecosystem and work with the things that we have established and securely and easily.
There's a ton of front end work before it gets there.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah. So it's interesting because I do a little consulting on the side, like for international stuff and all that. And one of the questions I always get asked is about one sign-in to be able to get to any piece of software in schools. Because I just think we all have a hard time remembering passwords. And if you think about a third grader, having a single point of entry or sign-in, I think is just so clever, not to use a pun,
and that's
the thing. But it's also secure. And that's what I like about it too, you know. And we're going to have nothing but more programs and things to use down the road. So I think that single point of entry is going to become more important as the years go on, you know.
Definitely.
So this is a kind of I think it's kind of a complicated question, but maybe not for you because you're smarter than me. Is what's one thing you wish people knew about your role? Because I think they see you as Mrs. Lehman, the person who fixes my computers, the person who makes sure stuff gets ordered, the person when I can't print it prints, or makes sure. But the role is much bigger than that. It just is. Right. So what's one thing you wish people knew about your role that might help the whole process of your job?
I'm in the department. I'm not always the fixer. I have a team, and we all fix and stuff. But a lot of times I'm the decision maker, and those decisions involve cybersecurity. What are the security implications of this piece of software, this piece of hardware updating, whatever? What are the student implications? Can we log it? Can we track it for retention guidelines? We have data, student records, all that type of stuff. New regulations from EdLaw 2D, all those types of things. So when there's a decision to be made, it's not just, yes, this looks good, let's do it. No, it's not. I think through and research all of those different aspects, which is not something my team does. That's really something that I'm charged with. And how does this fit in with our policies and things like that? And teachers are really creative when they're using tools with kids and finding new uses for things, and they push us to think about using this new tool or this new app or something, and we can't always be as responsive and quick as we would like to be or they would like to be, just because we have to vet and investigate those things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So,
And I'm going to pick up on that in just a moment when we segue between you and Dan about that exact thing you're saying there.
Fair enough.
So last question for you today. What's been your biggest takeaway from the pandemic?
So professionally, just how important infrastructure is and how lacking in our region infrastructure is in our community for internet access. And I live it myself over in Flint.
Yeah.
I got Frontier DSL, and I got 4 people at home trying to use it, and how stalwart they are in not providing it. And how important that is to people working and living in education in the area. So yeah.
No, that's which I think is that's an excellent point
that we're trying to champion. I know you and I are working on some things with
infrastructure's got to change. It used to be like back in the day, we thought that point to point, I almost like those point to point towers were going to be the answer, but is the higher you brought the frequency and the more you crush that wavelength, it still couldn't get through concrete the way it needed to. It still couldn't get through trees or dense areas, and it had to be flat point to point, and it was expensive. And there's been no other great solution to that, for regions like ours, so it's been tough. Well, I appreciate that. Before I get you off the screen here, we do have 2 questions so far. Okay.
All right.
So we have Bill Staley from Topeka, Kansas. Bill asks a question about Chromebooks. Oh, awesome question, Bill. How often should they be turned off or restarted? That's an excellent question.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
So last year in the spring, we advised power off Mondays.
Okay.
Because they needed to be power off at least once a week.
Yeah.
But we weren't doing the intense every day, every period Zooming that we're doing now. And Zooming and video chat requires a lot more resources and stuff. So we've been telling the students and the teachers that power them off every night now. And just a tip, closing the lid does not actually power them off. It just locks them. So you got to hold the power button in and tell it to power off and make sure the lights go off to power it off. Give it its rest every night, just like you get your rest every night.
I think that's huge because, I might run off to a meeting sometimes in my MacBook. I'll just shut it and go to my meeting and it's screwed up when I get there. So either the cursor doesn't work or and I find I have to force it off to get it to restart again, and then it works great. Yeah. And Amanda Donovan, another excellent question. So Amanda asks, what's the best way to sanitize Chromebooks?
Well, we worked on that again in the spring, and we're having some supply chain issues with that. But the keyboards and the outside are really you can use don't douse them in, but you can use sanitary wipes or whatever Lysol on a cloth and then wiping the keyboards and stuff. The touchy issue is the touch screen. Really, the chemicals that coat the touch screen to make them touch and not pick up all the oils from your hands and stuff. We don't want to eat that away. And so we are using a 70% isopropyl alcohol to clean touch glass surfaces. And that's from the manufacturers have said that that's in CDC guidelines that kills the big virus and it's not supposed to eat away at their finish. So
yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at an article on Reddit last night, and somebody had used a Clorox wipe on their screen, and what it did is it made wavy lines that they were kind of time lapsing it. It took almost a month for it to come back to something that was better, and it was never perfect again. So it's important to you. Yeah.
Be careful of those screens.
Yeah. So, well, great questions, and thank you for answering questions. And so I'm going to put my mask back on while you back off there a little bit, and we'll let Mr. Blankenberg kind of come into the frame here. I'm going to turn this my way just for a second. So Mrs. Lehman brought up a great question or a great answer when she was actually talking about software that teachers want to use. There's this new law that's called Ed Law 2D. And what it basically means is any piece of software that we have here at school, we have to make sure that your children's data is secure. And that means that the place where that software comes from, they have to work through a process where they're willing to guarantee that that any data of ours that goes through them is going to be secure, kind of or else. And so where I think Brenda made a great point was we sometimes find programs all over the internet that might do something. I have a free checkbook app on my iPhone, for example, that I use. It's that company would never say that they're EdLaw 2D compliant because they're not going to want to put the time, the energy, or the financial resources into making it that way. So there are actually some popular titles that are out there that are used in education that are not EdLaw 2D compliant. And so if what I think is going to happen here over time is EdLaw 2D is not going away. And so I think some of those pieces of software that are really good, but don't have the financial resources or don't want to get themselves the insurance that they're going to need in case there is a data breach, they're just going to kind of go by the wayside, unfortunately, is how it's going to work. So stay tuned for that. Brenda is working really, really hard to make sure that what we have is EdLaw 2D compliant. I'm the official data privacy officer, so I'm helping to work through the system that has to happen. And we have a team. That's Erica Hasselstrom, who's our director of assessment and instruction and curriculum. And Brenda's on that team. And Gil Jackson, our registrar and data coordinator, is on that team as well. And we're kind of working through that process. But if you ever hear somebody say, well, we used to use this program, but now we can't, it's not because we are taking it away because we want to. It's because it's not education law 2D compliant. And I'm not going to put my name on something that could cause a data breach. Just not going to do it. Not worth it. So, okay. So now our